Hi, boys and girls. Today's science lesson, we're going to cover the 6th grade standard from Life Science that states to develop and use models to explain how specific cellular components function together to support the life of prokaryotic and eukaryotic organisms, to include plants, animals, fungi, protists, and bacteria. Welcome to my virtual science class. First of all, let's talk about all living organisms. They can be classified into two categories: a prokaryote, which is often a single-celled organism, or a eukaryote, which can be single-celled but is most often multicellular. And by multicellular, I mean many cells, or an organism that is made up of more than one cell. Here's a picture of a prokaryotic cell and a eukaryotic cell, which just shows you a few structural differences between them. Cells are composed of smaller components known as organelles. The organelles perform specific tasks to support the cellular systems. Prokaryotes and eukaryotes have slightly different organelles, and for the most part, prokaryotes are simpler than eukaryotes. What exactly are these organelles, and what do they do for the cell? Cells are teeny tiny microscopic parts of living organisms, but inside of these cells are even smaller objects called organelles. Think of it like your body. Your body is made up of organs that keep you functioning. Organelles do the same thing for cells. Organelle means small organ. To explain organelles, I'm going to focus on eukaryotic cells as they have more organelles and are more complex. In this picture, you can see an animal cell and a plant cell. And on the left side with the animal cell, you'll notice that it is round and the plant cell is more square-shaped. You can also see that they have a lot of similarities, and there are also some differences between the two. So we're going to discuss that next. Let's start with the plant cell. Plant cells are more similar in size and are typically rectangular or cube-shaped. A plant cell also contains structures not found in animal cells. If you look to the left, you're going to see the diagram and all the organelles are labeled. You'll also notice the shape of that cell. So the organelles are listed on the right, and they have the ones with stars mean they're only found in a plant cell. So the first one is a cell wall. And a cell wall is a layer of structural support and protection. And if you think about a plant isn't made up of like a skeletal system like a human is or an animal is. So we have our skeletal system that provides us structure and support and protection. Well, plants don't have that. What plants have instead is their cells each have a cell wall, and that provides the shape and support. So a membrane is a flexible layer that controls what enters and exits the cell. Ribosomes, they make proteins for the cell. The nucleus, the organelle containing DNA that controls the functions of the cell. The nucleolus, is the main function is to make the small parts which make up ribosomes. The vacuole stores food, water, and waste. And you'll notice in a plant cell here, the vacuole is very large. Plants don't have a digestive system like animals, like we do as an animal, that would hold our water and our waste system. So they have to have a large vacuole that does that for them. And you'll notice in the animal cell next that they have very small vacuoles. A Golgi body is a packaging plant for cells. It stores and sends cellular material out of the cell. Chloroplast uses energy from the sun to create food for the cell. And chlorophyll is green pigment that absorbs the energy from the sun. Both the chloroplast and the chlorophyll are the primary organelles needed for photosynthesis to take place. Mitochondria breaks down food to generate energy for the cell. The endoplasmic reticulum packages and transports proteins and fats. And the cytoplasm is a gel-like fluid that supports all the organelles, keeping them in place. Here is an animal cell. And animal cells are round or more irregular in size and shape. The lysosomes, which is the first thing listed, has the stars by it. It's only found in an animal cell, and they're used for cellular digestion. Animal cell also has a membrane, just like the plant cell, a flexible layer that controls what enters and exits the cell, ribosomes, which make proteins for the cell, the nucleus, which is the organelle containing the DNA that controls the functions of the cell. The nucleus would be equivalent to our human brain. The nucleolus, the main function is to make the small parts which make up the ribosomes. The vacuole stores food, water, and waste. And if you look on this diagram, the vacuole is much, much smaller because animals have their own digestive systems, which is how we process our intake of food, water, and waste and our outtake or our output. Whereas Plant cells don't have that, so that's why they have much larger vacuoles. The Golgi Bodies is a packaging plant for cells. It stores and sends cellular material out of the cell. The mitochondria breaks down food to generate energy for the cell. The endoplasmic reticulum packages and transports proteins and fats. And the cytoplasm is a gel-like fluid that supports all the organelles, keeping them in place. Here is a diagram that shows a plant cell on the left and an animal cell on the right. And I really like this diagram because it color coordinates. The green goes with the plant at the bottom and the red goes with the animal on the right. And we didn't talk about some of those organelles previously, but that's okay. All right, so what is the difference between a prokaryote and a eukaryote? So prokaryotes have a tough cell wall. They have no nucleus. They do have mitochondria. They do have Golgi bodies. The DNA is circular instead of the helix shape like you would see in the eukaryotes. And these are mainly bacterial cells. So prokaryotes are teeny tiny microscopic organisms. Eukaryotes have a thin plasma membrane, a prominent nucleus. The DNA is linear, membrane-bound organelles, and multicellular organisms. So eukaryotes are what make up all of our plants and animals that we see every day on the earth. Prokaryotes are going to be teeny tiny things that would be microscopic, and they're there on the earth. They're just as prominent. We just don't see them. So here is a final picture comparing, it's the same one that I had earlier in the slides, where you can really see the difference. Here's a large vacuole in this plant cell. This is a teeny tiny vacuole in an animal cell. This area here is going to be our nucleus right here in the middle, and the nucleolus is what surrounds it. Over here, we've got a nucleus and the nucleolus. We've got our endoplasmic reticulum surrounding them, and several other organelles that you can see on both of the plant and animal cells.